Get the meeting started. This is the Measure J Commission meeting for Thursday, September 17th, 2020. And Chantel, I'll let you do roll call, please.
Commissioner Bernstein,
Here.
Commissioner Federer,
Present.
Commissioner LaBranche,
He is there.
Commissioner Lass,
Present.
Commissioner Robin,
Present.
Commissioner Soto,
Present.
Vice Chair Craig,
Present.
and Chair Jim Gazan.
I am here. So is the Pledge of Allegiance necessary with even Zoom? Marcus, have you been on other calls? Are they doing it?
The council does it.
I have been on a few, and some do it and some don't do it, so it's up to you guys.
Yeah, it's up to you.
They have the light right there.
Well, we'll be somewhat official.
Well done with the flag.
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
Well done with the flag.
Hey, I'm prepared. I tell you. All right, here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which
And
it
to the republic, for which it stands,
stands,
nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wow, that was pathetic. Okay. It doesn't seem like we have any members of the public joining us, so it's amongst friends. Do we have a motion for acceptance of today's agenda?
I so move.
I'll second.
And a motion of approval of the minutes that were sent out with this agenda?
So moved. This is Dan.
Okay, this time has been set aside for public comment, and I don't believe we have anyone from the public phoned in or anything, correct, Nancy?
No, we don't have any. Correct, Chantel? Nobody emailed us?
Nobody emailed, huh?
Can I
Okay.
ask a question? Don't we have a minutes from our meeting from June?
Special meeting?
Yeah.
They weren't in the package.
No, we just did the ones from February.
So we'll go ahead and get those out for the
We'll
next.
do the other, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Thanks, Jeffrey. Well, welcome, guys. I guess this is our official kickoff for the season. Hopefully, I would love to be back in person at some point. Maybe we can talk about that at the end of the meeting to see how comfortable people would be, or, you know, once the county lets meetings take place in person, maybe again we can work with the city to do it in council chambers so we can be a little more spread apart. But it obviously is nicer to be together as opposed to Zoom, because when we're in Zoom, we kind of miss out on some momentous things that can happen to one or all of us. And we actually have a new little addition to our Measure J family. And because we haven't seen her in person in 7 months, we didn't even probably notice. So Naomi, I will let you make an announcement.
Yeah, so I had a baby last month.
Congratulations.
Thank you. She was born on August 11th. Her name is Mercedes Steidel. And yeah, the last time we had an in-person meeting, I was barely showing. So, you know, there's a lot of changes in quarantine, but life still happens. And we're so excited. She's actually asleep right now. If she wakes up, I'm sure she'll make an appearance. But thank you for the love and support.
So good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, great news. And she is beautiful. Naomi sent me a picture. I was going to actually load it up on my iPad and show you guys, but she's a
cutie.
So, all right. So I guess we're really going right to new business. And I don't even see on the agenda here, we don't really have staff report, or let me see here, 1 second. Yeah, the new business, we'll just get right up to the budget update, I guess, from you, Nancy. So this is kind of what you're going to cover, and then we'll get in with Joel and Marcus as far as hopefully we have some available funds to maybe fund some things that were previously approved.
So I will go ahead and talk about the good news, the finances. So basically, we had an original budget. As you all know, the original budget was 15 million. And due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the revised budget revenue was reduced down to $10,900,000. We're projecting that an additional 3.9 million come in, which would leave the Measure J committee with approximately $900,000. And what we're going to do is Joel and Marcus will kind of talk about what we are proposing to put in the staff report that is going to the City Council on September 24th. And we already had identified those items, and I'm going to check to see what part they are in your staff report. But there was, I think, 8 items that totaled up to $925,000. And that's what we're recommending to take to City Council on the 24th. So we could go ahead and go through each of those if you would like. I can do it, or Joel could do it, or Marcus.
And Nancy, we didn't get your usual, or at least I didn't have it.
I did not include anything. This is more of a verbal. This is an estimated amount. We do have interest income that we'll have to allocate in there. So we don't generally close the end of the fiscal year till around October through December. The auditors come in and there were 2 audits done last year, an agreed upon procedures audit, and then the audit from the annual audit that's included for the entire city. So this year we have new auditors coming in. And when the auditors, they have some of them do things a little bit differently, and we want to make sure that everything we have recorded is recorded, hopefully, correctly. So if they make any adjustments, then I will further let you know. But if you remember, around October through December, we go through the final numbers and determine then what will be spent at that time.
Right, but you give us every month when we meet your little spreadsheet that shows, the different line items, the debt service to.
Okay, yes, I did not include that. I'm not sure why I didn't, but I apologize, and that will be included in the next package.
Because I just wanted to see, how bad COVID has hit us as far as, the good news is, we have $900,000 or plus or whatever.
Yeah, and we were kind of surprised. The sales tax did increase more than we anticipated. And as you probably know, when I talked to our sales tax consultant, she told me that grocery sales are high. Home Depot, all those types of home improvement have skyrocketed. Home Depot can barely keep items on the shelf. Vehicle sales are way up. Online sales are way up. So we were pleased that we got more than we anticipated.
Good. And do we get money from TOT as well?
Sorry, no.
No. So the vacation
Sales tax. Just sales tax.
Yeah, because I know it's $1.
So I see it in here. It gives a listing that's included in your package. If you want to find that one, with the 8 items that total up to the $925,000.
I think it's on page 3.
Yeah, and some of those things we had, I thought, gotten rid of.
Well, the air conditioning at the Demuth Center was now funded out of the 2021 CDBG grant program.
Okay, yeah, the air conditioning, I know was taken out, and then we had taken out, it's not on this list. All right, so that right there, that reduces it down to that 700 number I think we were looking at. Is that 795?
And Jim, we're going to recommend the Desert Highland restrooms get funded out of Quimby funds
Oh, great.
to just help provide some cushion or contingency to get that list of 6 projects completed. And as Nancy said, when we get the final audit completed by the end of the year, there may be additional interest income or other income for Measure J that will go back through with the mid-year update, which at that time will also be addressing the current fiscal year. And hopefully we'll see some strong sales continuing, and the higher than projected sales tax revenues really caught everyone by surprise. Even gas tax, we all thought everybody wasn't right. Well, gas tax revenues were still pretty high, higher than everyone was thinking it would drop. So it really boggles the mind how, with all the unemployment and everything going on, everybody staying at home, that they were still spending money and driving cars somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that's good news. And the Quimby, so there are Quimby dollars available that we're not using.
Yeah, so those, if you don't know what that is, that's a developer fee paid with each residential building permit. So it goes into a separate fund to go for park projects only. So you can add to existing parks or build new parks. And so that's why a lot of the Quimby funds that we had accumulated are going to the downtown park. But we do have in this current fiscal year budget, 650,000 estimated in revenues from permits that'll be pulled. So it just makes sense to, try to stretch our Measure J dollars and use the Quimby funds for that restroom.
When do you think the Quimby funds will start going towards the restroom?
Well, hopefully council next Thursday will agree to appropriate those funds. And then what we're working towards, as you know, is a bigger restroom project with, we had CDBG funds from the prior year for Sunrise Park to basically completely demo that old bad restroom by the stadium and replace it with a new one. And we're going to do the same thing at Demuth near the pickleball courts. That is funded with, Joel, what is it? CDBG? Yeah. Yeah, so this year
CDBG.
Yeah, so this year council approved CDBG funds for the restroom at Demuth over by the pickleball courts and the air conditioning at the community center. And then with council's approval, hopefully next Thursday for Desert Highland, the beauty of it is we're working with an architect that's coming up with like a cookie cutter approach to a new 4-plex restroom that's accessed from the outside. Kind of like what we're doing at the downtown park where the door, like at the beach, the doors are, accessed from the outside. So we're basically be able to just drop this in at each park and it'll have the same look and the same fixtures and furnishings and make it easy for us to build it all as one capital project. So that's the goal.
Great.
I've been pushing Joel to have an item, hopefully on the second meeting in October, to approve the plans for bidding. We want to work out some of the details on the fixtures and furnishings for those restrooms with the Parks and Rec Commission. But as you can imagine, we're trying to find something that is vandal proof. Difficult because, as soon as we put something in, somebody smacks it with a sledgehammer. But these new restrooms, as I said, are going to be different. You're not going to have hidey holes and people being able to do vandalism inside a restroom like they do in the old restrooms.
So if we take out the 250 and we take out the 130, we're looking at a total of 545,000 then?
Yeah.
And this is the short list of things that I know that we approved when Parks and Rec came and presented to us back, I'll just say pre-COVID. These did not, I don't think, ever got to council. I don't know. But you have a feeling that this could Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I think what happened is at that point, we thought we had $1 million. And then we
Right.
had a list of items. So we asked Parks and Rec to come back with less than $1 million worth of items. And so this was a list. So I do know that they had other items. I don't know. And there were some that we had already taken off that were minor, like vehicles and things. But I don't know what it would have been beyond that. But I do know there was some things.
Okay. So Marcus, or Nancy, how much do we have to spend here, like kind of more exact figure? You said 900?
925.
No, so once we go to spend it on the 6 items, we'll have an available balance of 383,000. But we were going to hold that in a contingency until all of those 6 projects were completed and then move forward.
Okay.
Now, I'm in your packet. I don't see page numbers on here. I'm looking it on my computer, but it looks like they had, in addition, a 15-passenger van and
Yeah, the vehicles are going to be funded out of the motor vehicle fund. So vehicles
yeah.
aren't really a capital project. So that's why those came off of the parks list.
That's right.
And we'll just deal with those differently.
Right.
Well, that looks right, because on attachment 2, you can see the list that we had voted to send off to City Council, and there are 10 items, and now here on page 3 we have 8, and 2 more of those have been struck, so that leaves 6, right?
Good question.
Jeffrey?
I don't think they were struck. I think
No, they're funded from other sources.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So on the memo from the projects for the 2021 budget, the canceled projects and the inactive projects, the canceled projects are just completely canceled, or are they funded elsewhere, or are they going to come back to Measure J? The keyless entry system, the fire station.
Yeah, those were completely canceled because the projected revenues, when we did this adjusted budget back in the spring, we expected 4.8 million less revenue, and yet Measure J and Council had appropriated the full expected revenue that was coming in plus transfers from prior years. So we essentially had to completely cancel and eliminate those projects. And then on top of that, cancel more projects to generate Measure J revenue to transfer to the general fund to offset the deficit. And so those canceled projects just need to be added to the overall list of canceled projects that need to be considered as we move into the future, which projects we're going to recommend for funding. And unfortunately, now we have a long list of projects plus whatever new projects that we had always been thinking of. So it really set us back, unfortunately.
I just wanted to clarify that there's still things that are going to be on the list at some point. So
Yes.
Yeah, and Nancy, excuse me. Nancy, were you? I want to make sure I heard you properly. It sounded like you were characterizing an approach to council, which is there's, call it $900,000 of that. Apply all of that to parks, specifically for the 6 remaining projects, and the balance sits as a contingency for parks. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not sure if it's a contingency could be used basically for anything.
Okay.
So I don't think it's necessarily parks. So when you put something, they could just sit there and maybe be.
But I think, you know, if you heard the council during their discussion on the downtown park in August, their priority was parks for any revenues over the 3 million that come in.
And
So that's generally the goal, is going to be to use available funding for other park projects that we identify in the future. Or
So with that framework, we're drawing a circle around a contingency that we would characterize as designated for parks from Measure J.
right, yes,
That becomes the entirety of the $900,000.
correct.
And Marcus, this would be staff's recommendation from your office to council then as well? You're in support of?
Yeah, no, I am, because I think there's a need to start. I mean, that's what, Measure J had really wanted to do anyway, moving forward with community projects, was to focus on parks. Yeah, we agree with this.
Okay, great.
Jim, or on the projects not in construction, number 10 is recreation ball field lighting. That's a big ticket item, but that would really come over to what we're talking about, would it not? Or could we add that into our list of 8? You see it?
Yeah, I
I
see.
see it.
Yeah, that's been a discussion for a long time. That's a very expensive project. But that would certainly work with the park funding.
But that one's, the funds are not encumbered, right?
That is correct. They are not encumbered.
Joel, this is Joel.
Yeah.
Quick question for you. I know we allocated 100,000 for the planning phase of the ballpark lighting. And I know there was a report here maybe 5-6 months ago that they had encountered some additional problems. Is there any update there?
I did not get an update from Stacy and their crew, the ones that were working on that, but I can have that to you fairly easily by asking. So I didn't get an update. I didn't get any information on it for this meeting.
But it's a great point that we know we're on borrowed time with those lights.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not really a sexy project, but it probably is one that we should talk with Parks and Rec, keep at the top or near the top of the list. That's a good point. We could certainly, you could recommend 100,000 to rebudget for the design phase to get us going on a design. And then hopefully with how we're looking towards into the next fiscal year, have funding maybe in the following year to move into construction.
Nancy or Marcus, that $100,000 that we recommended for the design phase, was that accepted by council?
It was, but then with the whole deficit, all those things were canceled.
Right, and that was not on Parks' list in February.
No.
Since it was already covered.
That recreational LED lighting, that was part of our presentation over a year ago in May 2019 that council unanimously accepted. So they unanimously accepted all of our recommendations. And of course, a lot of the projects never got rolling. Am I correct?
I'd like to see us add that 100,000 for the planning back in an effort to get this thing kind of moving, because even if they accept the 100,000 and we get the planning, we've still got quite a long ways to go. And by all accounts, those lights are on their last legs.
Right.
They are. They're dangerous. I remember Stacy saying you can't even replace the parts. Am I right on that? And the wiring there is so old, and some have fallen, and it's a safety hazard. I think that's important.
Jim?
Yeah.
Can I suggest with some of these, I mean, I agree with that, but once we know how much, maybe we go back to the Parks and Rec and mention this and see if because I don't know if there's something else that has come up that's even more of an emergency. I mean, it's been, 6 months, and the parks are obviously being used very differently now than they were in the past. So,
right. So I suspect that if we knock out the 6 projects here, they would probably have another 6 or 10 right behind them as high priorities, and the lights might be one of them. But I do think
So maybe we can ask them just to confirm. I mean, again, I think I agree that it's a priority, but they may have new emergency priorities.
Hmm.
I don't disagree. I feel like we've done this like 3 rounds with Parks and Rec where we double check if the priorities are still a priority. And I think we can just give our recommendations. I think we did this before, right? We give our recommendations and then tell City Council to confirm with Parks and Rec that this, assuming it's fine, then they just kind of move forward. We just kind of need like a rubber stamp more than Parks and Rec than kind of another back and forth.
It probably makes sense, yeah.
And if I'm looking at this correctly, Joelle, that memorandum dated August 3rd, 2020, this is the summary of the projects approved by Measure J with council, our joint meeting. So that the number 1 item is the park restrooms renovations for 1.6 million. Then it goes into the life safety improvements, emergency generators, blah, blah, blah. So when we're looking at that list that, you know, those 6 items that total 7,350,000 in the memorandum that's dated September 17th today, if those items never really moved forward, is that what's listed here then, correct?
I believe you're correct. That is correct. It didn't go forward due to the adjustments in the budgets.
Okay. So in some ways, I feel that as more Measure J monies become available, I feel like we have to get back to this original list that we worked so hard to get approved over a year ago. And at the time, these seemed like, from staff, these were really important items. We were able to do it within that budget, and council approved it. And again, priorities will shift over time. You know, Fire Station 1, is that the one on Indian Canyon, correct? Some of the needs there might be urgent with the arena not happening now. Yet I know it's something that still has to be addressed at some point, but it probably doesn't have the same urgency with no arena. So I guess I'm kind of with the team here that, you know, we should probably consider some of these lighter items. And I don't, you know, if we're not comfortable with spending that remaining 300 or to leave that in some, you know, waiting pool for another month or so, that's fine. But I guess I would start to, say, hey, what could we start to add in here that could be affordable? And obviously moving towards that lighting, that seemed to be a very important issue over a year ago. I know it hasn't gone away. Should we add that to the list? And I'll throw it out to the group.
You need a motion, or just everybody agree, or what do you want to do?
It's not a motion. I don't know. Nancy, you know, you said something about the remainder balance, that 383,000. Can you explain why we?
What, we can't spend it right now?
Yeah, if we can have some, can we peck at it? Can we get at it?
Yeah, it's yours. It's yours to recommend for spending.
Okay. So from Nancy or Marcus, from your perspective, there's no financial need to create a size of 30% cushion.
No. It's just we haven't really talked about other projects beyond the 8 that were listed.
Okay. So you characterize it, Nancy, as contingency. We could call it. It's simply the remainder.
Right, correct.
Okay. Yeah, I think Linda's suggestion of trying to go after that now is a great idea.
I also feel that we owe some respect to the Parks and Rec Commission, not to ask, you know, what are your new priorities, but because this is already here. And as a citizen, I think it's serious. Someone can really get hurt with those lights. And the field attracts a lot of different sports events. I think it should move over into what we're doing now, but simply let the Parks and Rec Commission know that we feel strongly about that. I would really, they don't need a vote, they don't need a meeting, but out of respect to their people, there should be maybe, Jim, a dialogue with you and the Parks and Rec, or however that goes. But I feel when you look at everything here to be done, there's a lot of things, but that to me is very important because of safety.
Now, the 100,000 is only for the design. So do you want to, we could talk with Stacy and see where we are with it, but I have no idea how much the total cost is going to be because this is only design. So
Right, and did we even get, see, now I don't see that.
Yeah, no, the cost of the project's well over $1 million.
No, I thought it was like 1.3 or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's an expensive project.
But now, Marcus, I don't see that line item on today's memo. So did they already do the design work? Was that 100,000 already spent, or?
Well, remember at the time the list was originally prepared, we were pre-COVID, so the design was already funded.
Oh, good.
Expectation was we would, hopefully fund the construction in the fiscal year we're in now.
Yeah.
The 100 was funded for design?
That's what I recall, wasn't it, Joel?
I think we were asking for it, so we could move to design.
I thought this was approved, the design was done, like Jim said, last year, and it was approved by council.
It was. We
wasn't
we
spent.
hadn't yet commissioned the design with the consultant.
Right.
Right.
So
we
the
already-
money got clawed back.
Go ahead, Dan.
So the 100 grand got clawed back effectively. So what we're
Now we're starting over. We start over.
Okay, so that's what I needed to clarify. Okay, thank you. So we would have to re-recommend then the 100,000 back to starting at ground zero with design. Everyone shake their
Correct.
heads.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
And we're saying of the projects that have been kind of clawed back, this is our first priority one that we'd want them to kind of address as funds come in.
And I agree, and that it's affordable. I mean, obviously, I would love to see the park restrooms renovations and repairs and the ADA get finished, but that's 1.6 million, and we only have about under 400,000, I guess, to round out this budget. So,
And once we see how the year end closes, when the auditors and they issue the report in December, you might have some more money left over from there. And as City Manager Dr. David Reddy mentioned, we're now going and doing a rolling budget. So we're going to keep you updated on a monthly basis. And remember, though, sales tax comes in 2 months after. So your July sales tax isn't going to come in until September. If that makes sense to you.
oh, so this will be based on July?
Yeah, so July sales tax doesn't come in until September. So you're always 2 months behind.
So this was July sales tax that gave us this bump.
No.
Well,
June.
it was June.
June.
It was throughout the whole year that gave you the bump. So remember, as I mentioned earlier, we adjusted our budget by about $4 million, and we came in pretty good. We came in about, the 900 over what we anticipated. So we're hoping that this is going to continue throughout the year, and the sales tax are going to come over higher than our projections, revised projections.
So can I recommend then that we, out of that money, the 900,000, that we do the projects that are on that other list, except for the restrooms and the air conditioning, which have been funded elsewhere, and add in the recreation ball field lighting design as our initial recommendation, with the remainder staying as contingency until we see what other monies are available?
Absolutely.
I'd second that.
I like that
I
idea.
just have one more question, sorry, to Marcus, who's no longer at his desk. Maybe Nancy, you can answer this. Or maybe Joel. If we move forward with a design and we're not able to move forward with the actual design for quite a while, is there, like, in general, a rough expiration date where those estimates are legitimate and actionable. I feel like there's been some other projects in the past where we kind of start and then we kind of pause and then we have to kind of go back and see if those estimates are still like accurate. So in general, is there like and I recognize that sometimes our projects takes 1, 2, maybe even 3 years, but is there kind of a general approximation of like, if we move forward on the design, we'll be able to kind of have these plans for X amount of years until there's like the funds to move forward with them?
I wish we could be better at estimating and keeping those estimates. I don't think there's really a general rule. Things, in the world economy, if anything changes in China or other places, metal goes up, imports go up. It's variable. It could go down at any time as well. So generally there's a steady increase in all prices. Most every project that I've been working on, there's been 25-30% increase in the last 2-3 years. But I don't really have a general rule that I could say, yeah, this price will hold for a year. It's just not really practical we don't do that. We kind of look every 6 months and see where we're at to see if price has gone up or down. We get surprised. Sometimes someone has a stash of some sort of material and their bids come in really low. So it's really a guessing game, professional guessing game, and we really sometimes are good at it, and sometimes we lose.
That's
So
fair.
if
I just want to make sure that.
So if this project is really one of your priorities and the design comes in at $1.4 million, let's just say, and you know that you only have, right now you have 383. This is what we would put into contingency reserved for one specific project. And you could keep building on that. So every time we come back at the end of this, when the audit's done, and what if you have another 300? Put that in the contingency, and that's going just for that one project. So eventually you can fund the one project instead of using, if that's really what you want to do. So instead of using, 30 here, 70 here, just to get projects done, prior to that one, I would just keep building up a reserve till you can fund that one.
Joel, is it my understanding that everything will be new? You're not replacing old things. It's new towers, lights, and the electrical part. So
yeah, for the 1.2 million that I'm here, yeah, it's new. It's all new conduits. What I understand is that a lot of the electrical lines are buried directly in the ground where you don't do that anymore. So yeah, I think it's such a throwaway all old and come in with all new systems.
okay, that's nice to know. So that'll be there for 100 years.
And Jill, related to that is the line item for the project. This is not a a one phase project or a one location project. This could be broken. If we're trying to build up $1.5 million over a few years, can't we proceed incrementally with location or phasing in the location?
We could. They're independent locations, right? So there's power sources at each location. So yeah, when we do the design, we could ask for breakdowns and breakouts of each individual location and get cost estimates for each, and we could pursue individual ones, of course.
Because I think that, at least from my own mind, of looping this back to Naomi's point of if we start something, do we have to get to 100% before we have any benefit? Or in other words, do we have to earn our way into 100% before we can start spending the first %?
No, not necessarily. If we could, all the plans will stand on their own, and you can bid them separately. Usually, what we do is we try to group them together because we can. We get the benefit of a smaller price for quantity. So that's kind of what our goal is. But if we have to, we'll separate.
I think this is important. I think especially in our new environment, outdoor spaces will become more important. So even though I said we should go back to parks, I take that back, and I go back to what Naomi and Linda were saying, that we should put this as one of the main things we want to put forward right now. And I believe Council is going to vote on this next week, so we should have our recommendation ready for them. Thank you.
So, Sid.
I just want to ask, maybe I'm being naive about this. When I hear it's $100,000 to be able to look into this, why wouldn't it be, what would be the scenario if they put out, Marcus, to the market out there, and Joel, for them to bid on redoing the lighting of the baseball diamonds, and let them come in and do bidding the same way when they did the pickleball courts. They didn't pay a fee to have somebody do a design. They came in and they took bids, and the people gave bids, and they ended up doing it. Why are we spending $100,000? I'm asking because maybe I'm naive to this. Why isn't it just putting out the bid for them to redo the lighting of our courts?
Well, you try to control the product, and by putting out a design with specifications, you actually control what you're getting from the contractor. I think you're more referencing something like a design build, or they just come in and swap out what's there with new equipment, but it doesn't always work that way. A lot of these projects, like I said, they're very old. The lines themselves are buried in the ground. So we definitely need a design through an electrical engineer to be able to, get the best efficient system. If you just let a contract out there with just give them money to do the work, it doesn't always come back as a product that you want to maintain. So it's really it's better to get a design and a spec that everybody can bid on and get one uniform price, or at least everybody's bidding on the same thing, and we get the best price for our design.
Thank you. I need to ask.
Do you have to replace the lights on the tennis courts also? Are they of that same age? Joel?
I don't know the facilities. I don't know. Marcus is still.
Or are they separate lines? And I don't know. There are lights over the soccer field too? Are there not?
Yeah. I'm not certain if we're all.
That may be bigger than we're thinking here. It may all be connected. So.
I just have it listed as ball fields, so I was assuming it was all basically Demuth Park and the Palm Springs Stadium. I don't know if there's any other.
I thought it was just the stadium. But...
It's more than that, isn't it, Joel? Isn't it also Demuth Park, all those ball diamonds?
Yes, Demuth also.
Yeah.
Basically Demuth and Sunrise, Marcus.
Yes.
So by spending $100,000, we're basically getting a design put together by a firm. Then from there, they can go out to bid. So that
because it's a major capital project. So as Joel mentioned, I think they found out that when they put those systems in the 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
Just direct burial. So
50s and 60s actually.
So we have to have an electrical engineer basically develop a whole brand new electrical system. And then I think we have to evaluate the poles to make sure they can be retrofit with the LED fixtures and basically modernize the whole system.
Yeah.
All right. So do we have a motion for adding this line item to our recommended list for next week's council meeting?
I so move.
I'll second.
Yeah.
Who second?
Who seconded it? Dan?
Why don't you have Linda?
Got it.
All right. So all in favor of adding to this short list of projects that are basically park related, this would be the recreation ball field lighting design for roughly $900,000, $99,936.74.
Why don't we round it up to 100? How's that?
There you go.
Is that okay?
So
Right.
in favor of adding that line item?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Sid?
No, I was aye.
Aye. Okay, so anyone opposed? Anyone wants to sustain from it? Okay.
It's
So
good news.
that our recommendation is 645 total now?
So, yeah, so it'll be $645,000 out of about 900.
Thank you.
And obviously the money left over, that's still ours, and we can add other funds to that, and at the next meeting we can see, you know,
Yeah.
where that's going to go. I'm a firm believer that I want to try to chip away at what was approved back in May 2019. I think that was, like I said earlier, an important list, especially the park restroom renovations and the upgrades. I mean, that's huge. So that's kind of at least my goal, that we kind of get back to where we were and can catch up. And obviously, one question I have too, Marcus, is where are we with street paving? Is that just null and void right now, as far as, because I think we were combining 2 years worth of.
Yeah, so we got through what, Joel, 2/3 of that contract.
Right.
We
Correct.
canceled it. Again, that was part of the funds we used to deal with the last fiscal year's deficit. And so we don't have any funds budgeted in Measure J for street paving this current fiscal year, but we're going to move forward with a large slurry seal contract using gas tax in Measure A.
Okay.
But, you know, so obviously street paving is going to be another priority that we're going to have to keep up with as we move forward.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's important to our residents too. So, okay.
Question. So none of the ADA access in Duluth has been done at all? Okay, thank you.
I'm looking here. Marcus, it looks like that maybe you did start some of that. Oh, no. No, it's still on the list, uncumbered.
Mm-hmm.
Active projects encumbered for Duluth Park ADA access.
Is there any other funding for ADA things, or any other resources for that?
Normally our facility projects have been funded in the capital projects fund, but that's an internal service fund its revenue source is the general fund. So at this point, you know, all of those projects are kind of on hold.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know a completion date yet for the downtown park?
Well, we do have a revised schedule from the contractor that puts it maybe at the end of May 2021. I can give you a little update of where we're at on the park. The contractor is mobilized, or fully mobilized. Again, they took a while to get all their contractors back up after the council made the decision. Right now, the police substation is all not complete, but the outer shell is complete. They're working on the interior of it. There's some mock-ups out there for some of the features that are going to be implemented. The footings for the water feature and the rock outcrop are being constructed. So the contractor is gaining momentum now and is moving forward. In addition, they're going to be working. They truly can't get 100% until they fix the damaged parking structure. There's some damage to the structure, so we've approved change orders to do the structural retrofitting of that parking structure. So once that's done and you see dirt on top of that parking structure, that gap there, there'll be a lot of movement out there.
And is the parking structure, is that city or grit?
It's a city-owned parking facility.
And then the last question on that is, if the completion date is May 2021, is that when the whole thing just gets unveiled, or is there a period before that when it could all be used except for the water feature, for example?
Marcus, I would say when we're complete, they pretty much, the park's complete. I think the timeline is to complete the entire project.
So there's no access?
Yeah, I mean, I think their schedule, they showed they'd be done by the end of April, and then that last month is kind of closeout and punch lists, and, you know, so at a certain point it'll be ready to be used. but especially with this project, if there's corrections or punch list items, we want to make sure that we haven't allowed the public to use it and cause any damage that, you know, gets us sideways with the contractor. So yeah, we'll be eager to open it up for sure, because everybody's going to see it's done. So and I'm hoping Joel and I can work with the contractor and accelerate their schedule, and that they can get those repairs done on the underground garage and get things moving faster. And they're still trying to mobilize some of the subcontractors that they had pushed off from before. So, but they're getting a lot of work done. They're really starting to move forward with it.
Thank you.
All right. And yeah, probably doesn't. Just one comment real quickly on that. I would hope too that they can try to get as much planted during the winter months as possible, because if we have another summer like this summer, I would hate to see half that park dead, because those plants, when they don't root, they will die. And I'm sure maybe there will hopefully will be a guarantee that they'll replace them, but I would hate to have the city hold the bag on replacing a bunch of dead lantana and a bunch of other stuff that's planted there. So I know there's going to be a lot of plants. So. All right. So I think we're pretty much through our agenda. Any other questions or comments? Anything more from staff?
I'm in here.
All right. All right, we're going to move on to public comment, and I don't think anyone has signed in. Chantel, anybody?
Nope.
Okay.
I have a quick question. So the only staff report we have is for the downtown park. That's the only one that I just want to confirm that that's the case.
Yeah, yes.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Well, just usually there's like a string of projects that we're getting reports on in terms of where they are, kind of timeline, or if anything has changed. And I know we just talked about the downtown park, and I was just wondering if there were any other updates to any of the other projects that are kind of underway. I know there's quite a bit in the packet, but I don't know if Joel or Marcus had anything else to know.
I mean, essentially, the downtown park's the only active Measure J project.
Right.
So, I mean, council essentially canceled all of the active projects that we had. So we're kind of starting from scratch. Jim, I went back and looked at the revised schedule. It shows that they're going to be done with plants. They're going to be doing that in December. So
That's awesome.
by January, they should be done with putting in the plants and trees, and then they'll start doing all the hardscape. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Good. I just want to make sure our money's being
and
spent.
I think we have a 1-year landscape guarantee on the trees and a 90-day landscape maintenance period. So
90-day plant establishment,
yeah.
1-year warranty after that. So yeah, they're on the hook for at least a year.
Okay, good. That's important. It does get hot here, and I've seen it with my own yard and my neighbors, and some people have bad timing when they plant.
Jim, this is not Major J, I don't think, but I would like to express my satisfaction with the Wellwood Murray patio project. It did get completed, and if you have a moment to go down and take a look at it, do so. I'm having not liked the first plan, I'm more than happy with this plan. It's open, it's really fresh, and the gates are quite attractive, and the ADA along there works very well. So thank you, city people, that got that done this summer.
Thank you, Linda. I'll pass that on to our staff that worked on it. Yeah, thank you.
Lovely. It's really, it's economical, it's well done, it's practical, and Ben and Jerry's put in some decent furniture. I was there last week, and it's really lovely. Enough plantings, maybe more in the front, but it really looks clean and neat and well done, and the air conditioner is all enclosed, and well done, well done.
Aw.
Well done. Do you like it, Jeffrey?
Well, I'm looking at the baby. I'm sorry, I was distracted.
Oh, okay, time out. Okay.
First member.
Maybe.
So I haven't seen it, but my office used to be in that building, and there was a big issue with the homeless there. And
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
they've blocked off the interior of the building, so I'm not sure if it's still an issue in that.
There's a coded on the gates. Well, people are going to find their way in every way but up. But I would say to you, after hours, it seems to be quite secure with a coded gate. Is that right, Joel? The two gates have,
Yes, sir.
yeah, code. And the tree is planted, and the air conditioning is just wired down to the ground. And I'm very pleased. I was very unhappy with the other plan. So whoever did that, bravo, nice job.
All right. Any
Can
other?
I ask Nancy a question on the? So we're operating now. The revised budget you have is basically $6 million. That's all going to be spent on the debt service, and then there's still a planned transfer to the general fund.
Right.
And that's what, like, once we start seeing July revenue, we'll know if anything comes back to us.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
We'll monitor it like we usually do on a month-to-month basis and see where we are each month when the revenue starts coming in.
Okay. And if once it starts coming in, oops.
Well, we could revisit probably. I usually do a mid-year budget update around January, and we could see where we are at that point for the first 6 months, and then regroup again and see what we could do if possibly add either more contingency to get the lights done or move forward with other projects.
Yeah, we won't be prepared until either December or January for an update on this current fiscal year. And I anticipate that review will go to council first, and they'll contemplate, if and how much additional sales tax revenues coming in, and how the rest of the year is looking based on what's happening then with vaccines and COVID, and whether group hotels and conventions can happen. And if everything's looking better, then I would hope they would look at having some of those Measure J revenues returned back to the Measure J fund. But I would expect we would have that conversation with council first on the mid-year update, and then getting direction from them on what they want to do with any improvement in the funding. Similar to what you'll see on the agenda for next Thursday that's about to go out on the fiscal year 1920 update.
Thank you. And so if the money does come back, is there anything on the list where it just automatically would go to first, like the street repairs or the property maintenance, downtown maintenance?
I think what would be helpful, to be honest with you, is as we meet, the Measure J Commission meets, we should start talking about that. Obviously streets has always been a priority. It's always been automatically funded. So I would imagine that would be at the top of the list. And then the challenge to me is going to be how to recommend and prioritize now this long list of projects that were previously funded, and we now have to figure out how to bring them back. I think we just have to be better CIP planners, and I'll turn to Joel and Don to do that. But, rather and we've talked about this, rather than funding the full cost, we spread it out over 5 years. It's going to take a year, 18 months to get through design, and then you bid and you get into construction, and you just, you appropriate the funding construction. So we have a more thoughtful, planned out CIP
Right.
that allows you to spread the money over multiple years for more projects.
Right, and I think Don, and we've been working on the CAP booklet, and we want to get back onto that and make sure that we have the CIP booklet ready, that at least 5 years gives us what we need in those years, in which fiscal year, and we can not take big chunks of money.
Yeah. I would think it would be a good idea for our next meeting that we all study that list and have an idea of what we think is important, both for safety and usage. I mean, I look at library, library planning. That's not going to happen. I mean, that's not absolutely critical right now. So that may guide our next meeting a little bit better, that we have some dialogue really, and as you're saying, what truly needs to be done and how to space it out, and hope more monies come in to fund those. Because I see the list in terms of things that are really needed and things that are really wanted, and that's maybe different.
I agree. I mean, we made the list at a time when we thought we were going to keep having more money, so.
Yeah, yeah. But at least we've had that discussion. Today we're sort of looking at this again and revisiting it. Like Naomi said, you know, you've been there many times before. So perhaps we won't all agree on what we think is a priority, but it would give us a point to start and to plan for. And as the monies come in, we can do those things.
Like we said earlier, priorities change. Fire Station
Right.
1, you know,
Right.
they do not need the room now for the big ladder truck because they don't have the arena coming in.
Yeah.
And it all depends on at what point the tribe will build a new hotel and all of that.
Mhm.
So it's maybe not
And
as immediate.
if
So-
there's a little extra funding, maybe we can manage a smaller cost project and see that it gets done. It's the big ticket ones that you really have to plan for. And that would be, I think, productive for a meeting next time, Jim, maybe.
Yeah. Any other commissioner comments? Questions?
Sorry for the
Let's
background noise.
see.
I would just say for Nancy, the finance report I think is going to be really helpful to kind of really structure our conversation when we're looking at some of those priorities. So we can really be kind of number focused as we're doing that prioritization.
No
Let's
problem.
see
Absolutely.
her. Oh, how cute. Oh, nice, baby.
All right, everybody. I think
Mhm.
that is it. We did this in just a little over an hour. I'm impressed.
Nice to see everybody again.
Maybe we need to keep it on Zoom.
Yeah.
Right? Well, we don't have a lot of money to spend, remember, so,
Well, that's true too. We're not talking about a lot.
yeah. Well, nice to see everybody. We will see you next month on October 15th at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you for your work.
Bye, everybody. Good
Thank
night.
you, guys.
Nice job.
Thank you.
I
Are we
moved-
good to go? Okay.